Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carole Baskin, and I am on the Hollywood Raw podcast where we're going to talk about all things Tiger King, TikTok, and getting to the truth of the matter.
What's up, Hollywood Raw fam? Welcome to our YouTube page. Make sure you tap that little bell, subscribe to our channel, like, comment, do all the things down below.
Dax, I'm excited for today's podcast. We have a person who, at the start of the pandemic, everyone was talking about, probably maybe one of the biggest stars during the pandemic to come out of the pandemic. Carole Baskin from Tiger King is on the show.
Okay, you know me and you know my wife pretty well. She doesn't get excited over celebs. I've been doing celebrity news for many years. I've interviewed some of the biggest names in Hollywood. Every time I tell her name, she's like, okay, cool. I told her we have Carole Baskin coming on. She was like, where do I listen to this episode?
It's such like a fun, funny, sort of random, but like interesting name. I don't know.
Dude, people are fascinated with her. They're fascinated with Tiger King. They're fascinated with kind of just a little bit of everything because that show was such a wild, it was a train wreck and you're just watching it as it's going down, and no offense, Carole, I know you're coming on, but I don't think she was, a big fan of the show. So I want to ask her about that. I want to see how much her life changed now that she's crazy famous. We got some fun games to play with her. I want to play this new one. We've got TikTok videos, famous TikTok videos that have gone super viral that include either her or Joe Exotic or something that has to do with Tiger King. I want to play them for her and get her reaction. I think that'll be really fun.
So obviously we're going to get into Tiger King and more. Dax, what are you currently watching? Are you watching any shows? Are you binging on?
We watched Squid Game.
You like Squid Games, or was it did it live up to the hype?
It was good. It was interesting. It was pretty violent. But I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it because it's one of those things everyone's talking about. So you're in on all the jokes and in on all the memes going around social media. So I think that's why sometimes I just enjoy a show because I feel like I'm a part of the crowd.
Was it that amazing? Were you blown away by it like some people say they are?
No. It was, it's Hunger Games, like 2.0. You know what I'm saying? It's like people killing each other to win a game at the end of the day. So no, I think they had some really good visuals. I think whoever was like the set designer or the cinematographer or whoever does all that stuff did a really good job because the visuals were amazing on the show. And I think that'll be obviously a huge Halloween kind of thing. But no, it kept me interested. Again, I don't think too in depth with a lot of these shows. I watch movies, I watch TV shows, and then I leave and I go, okay, that entertained me for that period of time that I need to be entertained. I'm no Siskel and Ebert here,
Yeah. I'm watching. I just finished watching Clickbait, which is on Netflix. Good. That was great. You watch Clickbait?
I watched Clickbait.
Dude, that was great. I don't want to, if you're listening and you haven't watched it, I just think the writing on the show was really good. Where like the ending is just wow, and I was just really like. I thought it was a great show.
There's a lot of plot twists and turns that you don't see coming. That's how I'll chalk it up. Rarely do you feel like you were so twisted, that you didn't see it coming. And I think that was one show that definitely. I know Manifest has been big. I haven't watched that. I've been told that'll probably maybe be our next one. Start watching Manifest. We got a couple of the shows. Lupin we had started, but didn't get to finish it yet. So. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I just started watching the first season because I'm going to try to get into Succession. Succession, is that what it's called? Okay. On HBO. And then there's another show on Netflix called 7 Days Out. It's like a documentary series where they follow these big events 7 days before the event starts, like the Kentucky Derby and the Westminster Dog Show. And it's just kind of interesting to see like the event 7 days out, like as they get ready for the event to get bigger. I thought, that was really good.
They should do a show on us getting ready for the Carole Baskin interview.
Oh,
and all the prep that has to go into it.
Wow.
All right, let's get her on here. We better not make her wait any longer. Yeah? You ready, Adam?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do it. Dax, tell us about our guest today.
All right, all you cool cats and kittens out there, our guest today has been on Dancing with Stars, and some may call her the Tiger Queen. All right, she's the CEO of Big Cat Rescue. You met her on Netflix's Tiger King, Carole Baskin. Come on in here, Carole.
Carole, thank you for doing the podcast. Thanks for coming on. Where are you right now? So if everyone at home is listening, where are you based right now?
I am in front of my green screen in Tampa, Florida at the sanctuary. And I just ran in from giving a pumpkin to one of our tigers, Aria. So if I'm a little windblown, that's why.
The tigers like pumpkins? That's a thing?
They love tearing stuff up, and pumpkins are especially fun to tear up because you can just squish stuff all over the place. So we had a pumpkin carving contest for our volunteers, and one of the winners just got to be able to put hers out there to see how the cat likes it.
Great piece of artwork. Now go have a cat destroy it. That sounds pretty fun. How many cats do you have there at your Big Cat Rescue?
We have 50 exotic cats.
And you guys are currently not open to the public, correct?
Yeah, we closed to the public on March 15th of 2020 due to COVID March the 15th. And then 5 days later, Tiger King came out and everybody wanted to burn the place to the ground. So we've been closed since then.
Wow.
Now, I hear you saying burn it to the ground, but I feel like there's also got to be a huge part of the population that loves what you're doing and wants to support you and wants to come to Big Cat Rescue. So is there any chance down the road you guys will open back up to the public?
It's really, at this point, it's more dependent on COVID. And I don't know what Tiger King 2 is going to do. If they continue to try and assassinate my character, then they could have a bunch of crazy people thinking that I did all the horrible things that they implied, which would then put the cats at risk again, which we just can't do. We can't take a chance of somebody poisoning a cat when they're here on a tour.
Yeah.
So, do you think your Big Cat Rescue will eventually open to the public, or are you nervous about doing it just because of the anger of some people? The Joe Exotic fans might come out and support him. I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on all this?
My biggest concern right now is COVID, because the cats can contract COVID and we don't want to take a risk. In fact, I have my mask right there from all of our people when they're anywhere near the cats wear masks. We're all vaccinated. But I don't know what that lingering fallout is going to be from Tiger King, because I think the kind of people who would believe what they saw on TV and then want to kill an animal are just, they're so crazy. There's no way of knowing what they would do or how long they might lurk in the shadows before they tried to do something.
So I guess I don't even, like, when this was all going on, what kind of threats were happening? I guess I didn't even hear about the threats that you guys were receiving. What were some of the things people were saying?
I have 3 hours of people just screaming obscenities at me on the phone and saying that they wanted to kill me, they wanted to kill my family, they wanted to kill the cats. And I could see why people who abuse animals and use them to support themselves rather than getting real jobs, I can see why those people hate me. But why on earth anybody would want to kill the cats? That's where I would stop and be like, what? Why would you want to kill the cats? And most often what I heard was people saying, because they don't belong in cages. And I said, do you not understand who it is that's out there just railing against our current status quo, saying these cats don't belong in cages? I've been screaming this since the 90s. And yet, you heard what you heard on Tiger King. You don't know anything about what we're trying to do to end that practice.
Yeah.
So
no, I want to get into Tiger King, but Adam, you're so good at getting people to tell their backstories. So ask her some more of her backstory for people that may not know Carole as well. I mean, who doesn't know Carole? But I love, her husband. Get into all of that.
Yeah. Well, you are currently married. You and your husband. You guys got married in 2004. Was he a Lion fan? A Tiger King? Was he a fan of tigers as much as you are, or how did you guys originally meet?
It was funny. He had a Save the Whales magnet on his refrigerator, and that was about the extent of his involvement in animal protection. He thought we should save whales. And he had a friend that was a mutual friend of mine named Mary Hessler Key. She was an author of The Entrepreneurial Cat, which was a book that I just loved. Anyway, she was bringing to Tampa a bunch of people that were working on trying to end the euthanasia of healthy dogs and cats in shelters due to overpopulation. And this had worked in San Francisco. And so she had brought the guy that was behind this, what they called No More Homeless Pets project, to Tampa. She got all the animal people together, which included me. And then she got her best friend, who was Howie, to come. And when we came to the event, he and I both ended up there serendipitously an hour before everybody else, and got to know each other as a result of being the only two people in the room. And I loved him immediately. I thought he was just the most amazing person ever. He had a bunch of blind dates lined up for the next 3 weeks. So he didn't call me for 3 weeks, and I thought he had forgotten all about me. And then finally, after his last blind date didn't work out, he contacted me. And it's just been happily ever after since then.
And what does Howard do at the sanctuary? Because I've obviously seen him on the show and all that kind of stuff, but what is his role at the sanctuary?
Howard was a Harvard MBA when I met him. He was a bachelor that was in his 50s, and he had run a number of small businesses. He had worked at Citibank in a multi-billion-dollar real estate section that they had, working out bank loans during the crisis. And then he had gone on to help these small companies. And what he's found true of small companies and startups like a sanctuary is that you have somebody like me that has like this big vision, and we can see it and we go tearing towards it, and we just, we leave in our wake this absolute mess. And we had been running, my real estate business had actually been paying the deficit for the sanctuary for the first 11 years that we had it, because I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know how to ask for money. And so when he came on board, I met him in November the 1st of 2002. And we got engaged November the 1st of 2003. And then we got married, as you pointed out, November 1st of 2004. But within a few weeks of meeting me, he was working here at the sanctuary to try and figure out, what is the strategic plan? And my plan has always been to end the captivity of big cats and to save them in the wild. And so we laid out on kind of the napkin on the kitchen table kind of a thing, what do you have to do to make this happen? And we had to, at that time, I think we were having to raise something like $3 million a year to take care of the sanctuary, so that I could then devote my time to the legislation necessary to end the problem at its root. The biggest thing I would say that he has done over the years has been to get the sanctuary to where it was finally financially sustainable on its own, so that I could focus far more of my attention on the legislation. And then as it's been clicking along in the last, I'd say probably the last 4 or 5 years, he's been helping me with the legislation, and he really runs that show now. I mean, every week he's the one that's getting all of the people and the different animal groups together to work on getting our federal bill passed. And he's just got such a great level of detail, and he's so personable and really does much better with people than I do. So he has been he's been my rock.
He's been your rock. But in October 2020, I guess you revealed your identity as being bisexual. How does your husband feel about you going public with that?
Well, it was no surprise to him, and I didn't think it was a big surprise to anybody else. It was, it's never been a part of our relationship. We've always been monogamous since 2002 when we met. But I think it shocked us both that it was such a big deal to the public, because my answer to the question in Pink Magazine was something to the effect of, I forget how they asked the question, but I was saying that I didn't see people by the color of their skin or by their ethnicity or by whether they were male or female, that it was all the same to me. And the only thing they wanted to focus on, because of it being Pink Magazine, I think, was my sexuality. And so that became like this media firestorm.
So interesting. And it's so true, because people latch on to identifications, people. So I'm not surprised that became such a big story, but it's interesting to hear the context that it was asked to you. In regards to, I want to jump into Tiger King, because obviously it has changed your entire life since it aired back the beginning of the pandemic. How has your life changed other than becoming a household name?
I'm really thankful that it happened during the pandemic, because I think it would have been much more disruptive had we all been doing everything we normally did. Whereas for the first year or so, I wasn't going to restaurants. I wasn't going to, grocery shopping for the most part. I wasn't going anywhere except back and forth to work. And going back and forth to work, I was being stopped, and that was on my bike. And so I was being stopped constantly by people wanting to do selfies with me. And everybody that I have talked to in person has been just lovely. Nobody has been hateful to me in person. It's only the people who can hide behind a screen that say the kinds of things that they do. But I didn't realize that things had changed so much until I went out to LA for Dancing with the Stars in August of 2020. And because of COVID, they had flown me by private jet into this little private airport that was really, there's like nobody there. And yet the people that were there all came running out to the plane when they saw me get off the plane, wanting to do selfies. And I thought, surely they would not have alerted the airport that I was coming, because we were trying so hard to, kind of keep this quiet. And yet everybody here seemed to have known who I was. And it wasn't until I was, going into my hotel and stuff like that, that I was thinking to myself, this is really weird that people outside of the Tampa Bay area know who I am.
That's so funny. What a weird transition.
Weird. Yeah, so weird.
So what was there like now? You're able, things are somewhat open, especially in Florida. When you walk around, are people constantly whispering to each other, like, oh, there's Carole Baskin? And I mean, how was especially in your hometown?
Well, I still don't go out much because I am really worried about COVID, even though we're all vaccinated here and we wear masks and we're so careful. I haven't gone back to going out. We don't go to movies. We don't go to restaurants. We don't go and do things in the public. But I have had to do a number of flights back and forth to different places. So I just got back in from LA Sunday. And I was noticing that, there's a number of people who will come up and want a selfie, but all the people who are trying to do this number as you go by, that just kind of cracks me up. And I see people doing it in their cars. And so it just kind of feels weird. And when people do ask for a selfie, I'll always say, would you please not post this on social media for 15 minutes? Give me time to clear the area.
Yeah. Are you usually wearing a leopard print or a tiger print? That's why you're maybe a little bit easier to spot?
I try not to. I mean, going back and forth to work, of course, everything that I wear is like that. But when I travel, I actually have 3 shirts that are not cat print that I wear when I go out. And I put my hair completely up and I have a mask on and all of that. And it's people will say, well, I heard your voice, because I offered coffee, and people will be like, is Carole Baskin here? I hear her voice.
Now, with this show coming out, obviously you kind of mentioned it earlier, you weren't too happy with the way they portrayed you on the show. But that being said, you have a ton of recognition now. If it was to do it all over again, would you say, no, I don't want to participate in the documentary, or would you still have participated?
I would still have done it. My family would have said no. They absolutely would not have gone through that again. If they had had any idea what it was going to be like for all of us. And even though I still would have done it, I would have done it knowing that it would have been so hard for my family. And I think it was much harder on my family than it was on me. If you can imagine people saying the kinds of things that were being said about me, if they were saying those things about you, you can blow it off and go, that's not who I am, and not take it personally. But the people who love you feel like they have to defend you. And I think it hurts them so much more to have to deal with that. But when I say I wouldn't change things, it's not because of how it turned out. It's because I believe everything happens exactly as it's supposed to, and that it's always happening for the best, even if we can't see it at the time. So it's just that internal belief that would have made me do it.
What was the biggest lie from Tiger King? The one thing that the documentary really got wrong?
I'm going to try something on you, because everybody asked me that. So my guess is that the reason that you guys are wanting to talk to me is because you watched Tiger King, and either you or your viewers or your fan base came away believing that I killed my husband and stole money from his family. So for you, what was the one thing in Tiger King that indicted me? And then that gives me the opportunity to give you the answer you need for whatever it is that made you think that.
Well, the funny part is when I think of Tiger King, I just think the whole thing was so wild and unlike any television that I've ever watched. I didn't walk away personally going, yes, she killed the husband or anything like that. I just was like, what is happening? We've got like so many characters all over the place. And we've had a couple of, this, I want to say stars, but the focal points of the show on our podcast. And I think, I just think it's interesting to talk to people. In regards to indicting you, I don't know, Adam. What
was it
did
that
you
made
think?
people think that? Because clearly people
Well,
think.
I think the way they laid out the storyline, they were very much insinuating. But again, I come from a TV background, and you're making a TV juicy. You're enticing people to watch the show more than anything.
Yeah, I remember the episode that they kind of focused on you. I feel like each episode kind of focused on some person. The episode they focused on you, it just made you spin a little bit. And, again, I'm just going as a viewer perspective. It was like, okay, Joe's the bad person. Then again, they kind of made you seem like the bad person. And then they made you question, did she kill her husband? And then you talk to the family. So it was just these personalities, but the storyline of what's going on in the South, which is someplace that I think a lot of people forget about. So it's just, I never thought it was like, oh my God, Carole Baskin definitely killed her husband. But it was just like a wild turn of events from every person, from Joe to you to what was going on at
Jeff Lowe to
Jeff Lowe.
Everyone.
It was
like every character was just
wild.
You couldn't write half these people in a script. I think that's what made them so interesting. You included. You are a fascinating person, and so that's why we want to talk to you. So that's really what it comes down to for us.
Well, this was totally unhelpful because I was really thinking,
I know.
If I just asked people, what is it that made you think that in the first place, then I could dispel that. So kind of like you said, there were so many things that made this just crazy all over the place. But if you were to look at just the things in episode 3 where they were trying to assassinate my character, as far as answering your questions, are what are the biggest
lies?
The biggest lies that were told. I think the biggest lie that was told is that I married a millionaire, killed him, and took his money from his family. When I met Don Lewis, he told me his name was Bob Martin and that he was working as this kid that he was 40 years old, but he was driving vehicles around on a lot for this guy named Don Lewis. And so I thought he was penniless. And I fell in love with this Bob Martin for like 3 years before I found out that he was Don Lewis, not Bob Martin. And even when I found out who he was, he had $113,000 worth of property. That was it. What he did for a living, what the real Don Lewis did for a living, was he cut the axles off of trucks, like these big 40-foot tractor trailers. He'd cut the axles off, sell the axles back to the company. I think it was Great Dane he was dealing with at the time. And then he'd get the boxes as his payment for what he did. And he'd sell those storage boxes for like $500. So that's what he was doing when I met him. And he could read at like a first grade level. I'm the person who built our real estate business up into a multi-million-dollar business. And when we got married, we didn't get, they made it sound like I broke up his family. His wife said he had 24 girlfriends in Tiger King, which was a surprise to me. I knew he had some, but I had no idea he had that many. But we had this kind of weird relationship through our entire time together. And the reason was he kept telling me at different times that he and his wife were trying to patch things up. And so we would split up. We were still working together, but we wouldn't be sexual. And what I found out later is he was just having different affairs with different women. He was never trying to work things out with his wife. And then after 11 years, she was just sick of that. And she fell in love with a guy at her church and she wanted to marry him. And she said she wanted $1 million to just, have a quick divorce and be out of there. And it was worth it to me for her to get $1 million of the money that we had earned in order to do that. I thought that was fair. They had all of that. Nobody saw any of that in Tiger King because that didn't fit the narrative. That didn't give Joe his righteous indignation at saying all of the horrible things that he said about me. it would have just made him look like the kind of person that he really was, which was not the narrative they were selling.
So bottom line, Carole, you did not, or did you kill your husband with all that?
I did not kill my husband. I was the only person trying to protect my husband.
No, he was kidding. So going on to now, they're going to be doing a Tiger King 2. You are not participating in this.
So disappointed you're not doing it, but I understand your reasoning. But I think I know your reasoning.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Would you do it after that?
I don't know. I don't know if you try to set the record straight, or like what you just did with us. Do you say, no, I want this included this time around? You guys cut out some of the most important facts about my life that have made my life, I don't want to say hell, but you've put me through a lot.
How could I make
is there a
you do
chance
that?
of getting redemption?
But also the good things is, and I thought from the Tiger King 1, is like you raised awareness for what was going on in this tiger trading going on in these zoos, which I had no idea existed. So I learned about this trade. So I know it was tough for you personally, but for your passion, I learned about this and I was like, wow, this is pretty wild that what's going on, which people weren't aware of.
Well, I'm glad to hear that was that was a result that you got, was that you learned about it. And I've kind of, I'm always trying to look for the good in things and how this was for the better, and thinking maybe this is it. Maybe people just didn't know that this was such a huge problem, because in my world, it's been like, it's my whole world. This is all I hear, people abusing cats. It's like, how could you not see this? But clearly people didn't know that this was happening. So I think it did do that. That is the one.
Sure.
So do you have any idea of what to expect from this next Tiger King 2, or if this is going to affect your life, or if it's going to just focus on Joe and him being behind bars?
I know somebody who had been working with them. In fact, this was interesting. There, as you may have seen, there have been a number of people who have trash talked me after Tiger King, who've seemed to make it like their career to try and prove that Tiger King was actually an accurate narrative. And this person was actually one of those people. And so she started pulling all of the public records, and she started going down and pulling we call it a conservatorship. In fact, the nice thing about Britney Spears is now everybody knows what a conservatorship is.
Very true.
So, she was pulling those conservatorship files, and she saw all of the, the girls, the Don's daughters and I had agreed very early on how things would be done. There was no fighting with us after the first, initial, when they tried to take over the business. I had to go down and have a conservatorship appointed that made me the conservator instead of having the secretary be the conservator. And so we had done that early on. And the more of this stuff that she read, the more she was like, I think they absolutely got it wrong in Tiger King. And I think you guys need to review what you've done, because all of the evidence proves what she's been saying. And so during a course of, she was doing that in June of last year until recently. And she said that they just seem hell-bent on trying to further anybody they can find that'll possibly say anything negative about me. Those are the people they want to talk to. Those are the people that they're filming. So I really feel like this is going to be just another horrible year of people having the wrong idea about who I am and what I'm trying to do. But my husband said, what's the worst they can do? Make her out to be a serial killer now? It's like, you couldn't be any more horrible than they've been. So I feel like at least this time I won't be shocked. I was utterly shocked before, because we deal with producers all the time, and we open our homes and our hearts and our sanctuary to them. We've never charged people to come here before Tiger King. They could come and film for free. We'd show them everything that they wanted to know, just any way we could possibly help, because we wanted to get the message out there that these cats don't belong in cages. And they said they were working on the Blackfish for big cats, which was not at all what Tiger King was. And so, I think they found something that was very popular, and I don't have proof of this, but I was told by somebody in the industry that they sold it for $14 million. So if that's what sells and that's what makes you rich, why would you go back now and say, oh, you know what, we were wrong? They're not going to do that.
Yeah, now they're looking for salacious stories. But at the end of the day, you're not the one behind bars, as someone else is living a very different lifestyle than he used to be. I mean, at that, like, so I think that, as much as the crap that you've been going through, one person's behind bars and you are not that person. So I think that's a win in your book. But I do want to know, you ended up selling Joe's old zoo. Now, what have they done with that? Because I know you said there can be no wild cats on this land anymore. It can't be another zoo. What are they doing with the land?
I don't know what they're doing with the land. I know that from what the realtor told me, the best use for that land is as a RV park because it's got such close proximity to the highway and it's very close to the Texas, Oklahoma border. And so my expectation would be that that would be the best thing that they could do with it. The family who bought it is kind of known in the area for going in and buying things that need a lot of work and then just kind of piddling around with it and turning it into something else and then reselling it. So that's my expectation. But it's actually written into the deed that it cannot house exotic animals again. It's never going to be a hellhole again.
Yeah.
What was the worst thing that Joe Exotic did to harass you? I mean, I think I do remember him hiring a hitman, but was there anything else, which is probably the worst because he tried to keep, but was there anything else that he really did that really stuck out to harass you?
One of the things that he did that I didn't know was as bad as it was until I saw it in Tiger King. And that was he had gone down and hired a helicopter so that he could buzz down close over the sanctuary. And we had a cat at the time who her name was Narla. She was a cougar. And if she heard motorized sounds, like we couldn't do lawn mowing or weed whacking around her, everything had to be done by hand anywhere near her because she would go into a seizure. And she was old and this was like toward the end of her life. And as this helicopter is going around, of course, we went running out to make sure she was okay. And we actually took video of the poor cat just having a horrible seizure because of the helicopter scaring her half to death. And then in Tiger King, that was where you saw his husband, John Finlay, saying, yeah, Joe was talking about, wouldn't it be fun to drop grenades in glass jars down on the sanctuary from a helicopter like this? And so for me, that was just terrifying because that would be the kind of thing I would have expected him to do. I just don't think he has any kind of appreciation for life of any kind. And to know that it's so easy for somebody to violate this safe and sacred space that we have for these cats and do so much harm was really terrifying.
Are you on good terms with anyone that was featured in that show at this point?
Brittany Pete from PETA.
Yeah.
We're on like speed dial with each other. Joshua Dial reached out to me a couple of times, and then he was mostly asking for money. And of course, I wasn't going to give him money. And then he got like really crazy saying that, all of his phone messages with me had been recorded and I had been sharing them all over the internet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? None of that happened. And so I just blocked him.
How did Jeff Lowe make his money?
He has a rap sheet for how he made his money. Jeff Lowe first came up on my radar when he was in Beaufortville, South Carolina. And it was because there was a newspaper article talking about him running a zoo out of a flea market at the airport. And then the more I started looking into this guy, the county was, I forget what was happening, but the county was saying, we don't think we should have tigers in the airport at this flea market. And what does the public think about this? And so I wrote in saying, there's absolutely no reason for people to be doing this kind of thing. And then there were stories in the paper about him apparently ripping off some charity. And I don't really know how it was that he was doing that. I don't know all of the details of that, but if you Google Jeff Lowe and charity fraud, I think you'll probably find it. And then there were other allegations that were being made about him selling clothing that he said belonged to Prince. And Prince, there are people saying, no, that really wasn't his. And so I just don't know how it is he manages to come up with large sums of money when he wants to. I can see with the cub petting how these people make a lot of money really fast. But with him not having cubs anymore or any of his exotic animals anymore, it makes me wonder if he still has that capacity to generate funds. Like I was reading in the paper that he's being evicted by Cheryl Scott, the woman who he had gotten to back him with his move to Thackerville, and that he owes her, I think, $10,000 in back rent, the article said. And so I don't know if he has the capacity to go out and just drum up $10,000 without being able to exploit animals, or how he does that.
I wanted to get
IRS ought to be looking into so many of these people. It's like, where is their money coming from?
Yeah.
With Angel, he
that's
runs
what I think about. Yeah,
Very,
I'm with
very-
you in life. I just wonder how people have money. I don't know how this. I'm in New York City. I don't know how these people live. So it's not just these people. It's everywhere.
I wanted to get, so you've got a podcast yourself, correct? And it's called Carole Baskin's Diary. What do
Yes.
people, what do you talk about on your podcast? Is it a discussion? Is it about your rescue? What is your podcast about?
Well, there's actually two. There's the Cat Chat Show, which was a podcast where I would interview other people who were involved in cats, people that were protecting big cats, little cats, cat whisperers, all those kind of things. And then that show, I hadn't interviewed anyone since COVID. And so it just recently was picked up by two of my volunteers that are now starting to interview people on Zoom. And so the Cat Chat Show has now resumed. They've got, I think, 3 episodes under their belt for season 3. But my diary, the reason that I put my entire diary out there is because so many people were saying that I wasn't being forthright about what I knew about Don's disappearance. And I have kept a diary since I was a child. And so I thought, you know what? I'll just put it all out there and people can make up their own minds, because the media seems to have been very selective in what they will post. Like, even when Carole Baskin's cage fight was announced, I saw so much press where the press was trying to say, oh my God, I can't believe she's got her own show. I mean, isn't this horrible? And it's like, they haven't even seen the show yet. And if it proves all of the crap they've been saying about me for the past year and a half was wrong, I can see why they don't want to give it any kind of credit. And so if they're going to be out there saying all kinds of things about me that aren't true, or taking things out of context, which is mostly what's done, then I'm just going to give everybody who cares access to all of the context, and they can make up their own minds.
I'm curious, who was the biggest celebrity that reached out to you, either supporting you or is a big fan of you? Did someone reach out, get in your DMs, get in touch with your representation that was very cool or surprised you?
Yes, and I can't talk about it, but what I can tell you is somebody reached out to me and said, I have this group of celebrities and we meet, or before COVID, we would meet I forget what day it was, but they would meet once a week and they'd all get together and they'd talk about what it was like to live their lives. Because apparently, and I can see why now, why celebrities run around in dark glasses and scarves and ducking, like they're running from the law from one place to another, because it's just, it's it's overwhelming to just be constantly surrounded by people. And so it gave them a place where they could talk to each other. And this person contacted me and said, you have no idea, after Tiger King came out, they said, you have no idea what the press is going to do to you. They're going to be horrible to you. These people have already lived through what you're about to endure, and they want you to come onto our Zoom meetings, because they've moved their thing to Zoom now because of COVID, so that they can just let you know that they've got your back, and that, it's not, you're going to live through it. You need to live through it, because it's going to be a nightmare. And there were 21 or 22 people on that call. And I'd say there was probably only like 3 of them that were sports figures that I didn't know who they were. And I was just amazed to be in a group of people who were so well known and who were so loving. Every one of them was, with one exception, was just, they couldn't have been nicer and more helpful, and saying, never read the news stories. Don't read the comments. Don't don't listen to the things people are going to say about you, because it's going to kill you if you do. And so it was really good advice. And I can't thank them enough for coming out so quickly to try and help me through that.
That is so interesting. I have never heard of this famous circle of people that support each other. I think that's really cool. Was it mostly like actors and actresses and stuff, or are these singers? Is it just a little bit of everyone?
Everything you've mentioned so far was in there.
Wow.
It was phenomenal.
Now, are we talking like A-list stars of people that are basically, constantly being bombarded by fans and photographers and stuff, or the biggest names? That is so interesting. I like the idea of them getting together to support, and it's interesting that they would let someone into their group that was just starting out on this ride of fame.
Yeah, I think that took a lot of trust on their behalf, and that's why I've never revealed who they were or even the person who put this all together, because I felt like that was such an amazing thing that they did that I wouldn't want to blow that for them.
Yeah, no. And what's Jennifer Garner like in real life on a Zoom meeting? No, I'm just kidding. Very cool. Very cool.
Who was the one person when you did Dancing with the Stars? Not your fellow dancer, your partner, but was there one person when you were on the cast that you kind of really bonded with, who you kind of feel like you got a really good friendship out of?
It wasn't the cast so much as one of the producers, Dina Katz. She was the person who had asked me to be on the show, and she just did everything that she could from the very beginning throughout the entire thing to make it known to me that I was part of the family. And as recent as just yesterday, we were exchanging emails still.
So fun. Was that a pretty good experience? That did you walk away loving that experience? Because that was kind of the first time we had seen you outside of the Tiger King realm, and doing something on a public forum like that. Did you enjoy it?
I limped away from it because that's the hardest thing I've ever done. Those people are real athletes. And it really physically was the hardest thing I've ever done. But as far as the emotional impact of it, it was fantastic. Everybody there was just so amazing and so kind. And, these are real stars that were there. I'm kind of like a celebrity by accident. This was never anything that I sought to be or had any desire to hobnob with people in that world. I've been like laser focused on ending the abuse of big cats and didn't feel like that was something that could help me so much there. But I think it turned out helping me an awful lot, because it did give me the opportunity to talk about the issues. And that was part of the contracting that I did with Dina before going on to the show, was saying, I want to be able to talk about these things. And I think what they did that helped me the most was they have access to so much publicity, and they would set up what they call radio tours and print tours and media tours, where they'd have like 10 different reporters in a row that would come in and ask me questions and do their tapings and then leave. And so by being able to reach out to so many of these different outlets and talk about the ones that I felt like got the worst part of the deal in Tiger King, which were the actual tigers, then that made it worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into trying to learn how to dance, and the humiliation of realizing that I could not be taught to dance.
So great. Well, I have a question for you. Are you on TikTok?
Yes.
You are. You've become such a pop culture phenomenon that, obviously last year was filled with Tiger King costumes for Halloween and people talking about you guys left and right. I want to play some of the most viral TikToks that center around Tiger King and get your response to them. Are you down to play?
Sure.
All right. This first one comes from, it's Ryan Pownell, and it's him running into Joe Exotic in Las Vegas. All right, so this is one of the most viral videos on TikTok.
Hey, look at this. Let's fucking go! Yes! Yes, Joe! Fuck yeah! Fuck yes!
Did he not know that was an impersonator?
I would have felt that. I mean, yeah. I mean, now you know he's in jail, but that guy looked pretty good.
He looked pretty good.
Sounded like him too.
But I guess what I want to know is, what are your thoughts about someone, freaking out that much, thinking it's Joe? Like that, if Joe was walking down the street, he might get that reaction. Does that just burn you inside?
Well, it really makes me wonder why it is that people, because surely everybody who watched Tiger King came away from it knowing that he's in jail for 2 counts of murder for hire and 17 counts of wildlife trafficking and killing 5 healthy tigers to make room for 5 more that he wanted to board for a circus. And yet people see that as somebody that they want to emulate. They want to dress up like him. They want to see him in Las Vegas and put that on TikTok. I don't understand what it is in our society that makes that kind of person the kind of person anybody would want to associate with.
Well, in my honesty, I would dress up just because he's so crazy. Because I've dressed up as a lot of crazy people for Halloween. Doesn't mean you like them, just means you want to dress up because they're out of this world. All right, this next one comes from Tommy. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, it's at Tommy J. Rose. It's a young girl talking about how all the Tiger King cast has relationships, but she's single.
So you're telling me this man had 5 wives at the same time. She was married to a multimillionaire, and this man was married to 2 straight men. And I'm single?
Is it funny to like have people know all this business and be able to make TikToks? Like that one has tons of views on it.
Wow. Well, I mean, it shows again the false narrative that people believe. They believe that my husband was the millionaire, that I married the rich guy. And, her implication is, how did this ugly old broad marry a multimillionaire? And it's like, I made us multimillionaires. That's how.
All right.
We got 2 more.
Let's see. We got Kyle Kapanar. I think I'm saying that. So reacting to the fact that the Big Cat Rescue followed him on TikTok. All right.
I'll be fucked up if you can't be right. Yeah. Carole Baskin.
He was stoked. He got a follow from you guys.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, last one. We got let's do one more. We got Love Beef. TikToker's mom looks exactly like Carole Baskin.
Amazing.
Here.
Music.
Let's go!
I mean, it's
My reaction
flattering.
2020.
All these people talking about you, it's got to be such a weird lifestyle.
It is weird.
All right, so I got one more. I got to do one more. This is by Rylan. This guy has been getting tons of views. He dressed up like you doing one of your voiceovers. All right.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's Carole Baskin. Just took a kitty cat ride around my kitty cat, meow meow kitty cat lake. And I just want to thank everybody for being a supporter of the Big Cat Kitty Cat Rescue. Now, order of business, we stopped feeding live rabbits to the big cat, so that's a big improvement. And also, I did not kill my husband.
Yeah.
That Saturday Night Live piece that the young woman did where she talked like that guy, apparently that became what everybody believes I talk like. And so I do a lot of cameos and people are like, oh, could you talk like that? And it's like, I can't even imitate her.
Yeah, how crazy is your cameo doing now?
It's done
going
really well.
How many videos are you doing a week, would you say?
I think I've done something like 3,400,
That's a
3,600 of them.
3,600 cameo videos?
Yeah.
Oh my! Are you one of the most popular people on Cameo then?
I think I must be because they have assigned me one of my own handler, and they're always offering all kinds of, like, every time they try anything new, they want me to try it to see if it'll stick or not.
Wow.
So it's
and what
really
is the craziest request you get from people?
an awful lot of requests that I get are people wanting me to make fun of the fact that my husband's missing, and I decline all of those.
Yeah, that's
There's nothing
insensitive.
funny about that, and yet it blows my mind that people would even ask for me to say things that were so hateful toward other people or toward my own family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had one last TikTok. This one got a ton. I'm assuming you've seen this one. This one was the Caleb Jackson. This one is the viral sound. Let's see. Have you seen this one?
Carole Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me that it didn't happen. Fed them to tigers, they snacking. What's happening? Carole Baskin.
That one got a lot of play. Had you ever seen that one?
I've seen it, but I didn't know if he was the guy dancing to it. Is he also the guy that sang it?
I don't know that. All I know is that one was the one that probably picked up the most steam out there because of the way he's dressed, his dancing, the track. I mean, I got to think, does any of it even make your skin crawl anymore? Or is it like you've got skin tough as leather and you just move along with your life?
It doesn't make my skin crawl. It makes me wonder about humanity. And there have been so many people on Cameo that want me to sing that song. It's like, I don't even know the words to that song. But one of the nice things in Dancing with the Stars was Derek Huff, one of the new judges, actually did his version of that was all about dancing instead of about killing my husband, which I thought was really sweet of him to kind of recouch that for me.
Oh, that's nice.
That's good. Obviously, Halloween's around the corner. We want you to rate the Celebrity Tiger Halloween costumes 1 to 10. Obviously, 10 being the best. We have a few celebrities that have done some costumes.
Some good, some pretty decent.
Yeah. So let's start the first one. We got Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest.
Oh nope, sorry. Here we go.
Oh
1 to
wow.
10. Yeah. What'd you think of
That's
theirs?
a 10.
That's a 10.
Yeah, you
okay.
give it a 10?
Yeah.
It is a pretty good one.
Yeah. Right down to the bullet holes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got Jason Aldean and his family. So let me find that one real fast. Here we go. Look at the little really Carole Baskin.
Aww.
That's actually really good. He's even got the knee brace. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be a little bit flattering with all these people dressing up as you, right? Like, this is pretty cool.
Well, like you said earlier, I don't know when people are dressing up as me if it's a compliment or if it's an insult, because you dress up like Satan. So,
I think you also have to look at it. You are so famous that Tiger King became one of the most popular shows on television during quarantine that everyone knew who you were. So whether they like you or don't like you, your image is insanely popular. So, you want to dress as a costume. Yes, that when you walk down the street, everyone knows what you are dressed as. That's a big deal.
But if that was you, how would you feel about that?
Oh, bring it on, Carole Baskin.
Really?
Dress up as me for Halloween. That means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, but they wouldn't know it's you. Here's the thing: if someone dressed up as Dax for Halloween, they would think it's Lance Bass. Like, oh, they're dressed up as Lance Bass. So they're not really dressing up like, oh, they're nosy like, oh, it's Dax. But yes, I think it's out of love because they were just such a fan of the series, and I think it's more of a compliment that, like, again, I go back to the thing that you kind of what I felt I got out of the experience was raising awareness. So I think it's like showing homage to this experience I had during the pandemic that I enjoyed watching this series with my family. So I think it's pretty cool. I don't know. That's just me.
I agreed. I agree. But I'm also someone who doesn't dive deep into that kind of stuff. Like I look at, like, I've dressed up as Carrot Top. I don't have any feelings about Carrot Top, good, bad, whatever. He's just so recognizable that it was a costume that I knew that I could pull off. I've dressed up as Chris Angel. I don't care either way. He's just a very recognizable person, and that's why I pulled off his costume. I don't know.
Wait, we have another celebrity that dressed up, paying homage to the Tiger King, Jimmy Fallon.
Okay.
He forgot the bullet holes, but pretty close.
All right, we got Rob Lowe.
Wow.
He's got the face down a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
It's kind of creepy. Look at that.
1 to 10, what would you rate
eyebrows.
this?
I'd give it an 8. I've never seen Joe in that shirt, and I've never seen a domestic animal that was willing to help me.
Oh, I like it. I like it. All right. I think I got one last one. Jade and Tanner. They're from the Bachelor Bachelorette franchise. Here's their family.
It's pretty good. I like the kids' costumes as tigers. Those are pretty believable. I'd probably give them about a 9.
We got one more. We got like one of the biggest people in the world that paid homage.
Kim K and Jonathan dressing up as you with all the tigers and Joe Exotic.
That's a lot of tiger stripes. Bless her heart.
So yeah, Kim Kardashian and Jonathan Chabin, they did paid homage. What would you? I mean, that's the biggest star in the world. You know, dressing up as you. I mean, that's an ultimate compliment in my opinion. I mean, that means she's a fan to a certain extent. Like she acknowledges you as a person, and it's a fun. Like she enjoyed you.
She set a visual standard that I will never be able to attain. However.
No one can. That's just what she does. She takes everything to the next level.
Yeah, I think it's really, again, I look back and, you know, I was so, I said this earlier in the podcast. I think what the Tiger King did was bring out what was going on in the South and this crazy soap opera storyline that had so many turns that made you question who is the good person, who is the bad person. We actually found out who the bad people were, because the bad people are obviously in jail. So, you know, obviously they did something that they were found guilty on. But it's, again, I think most importantly, I found out about this tiger trade that was going on amongst these people. So I thank you for kind of bringing that to awareness. Obviously, we all like these big cats and we want the best for them. And I think that's your mission. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. On that note, Carole, where can people, if they want to support the Big Cat Rescue, where can they go? Where can they donate money? Where can they help you out? Because obviously people can't visit right now. And that's one way to kind of help you take care of these cats, because I know they're expensive. So where could people donate money?
If your audience is in the United States, the way people can help the most is not through money. It's through roaring out to protect these cats. We have a federal bill before Congress right now. It has over 220 co-sponsors in the House. We have, I think, over 34 in the Senate, and it will pass this year if they hear from enough constituents. And so if people go to bigcatact.com, they can send a tweet, they can send an email, or they can do something really scary for people. Hey, it's Halloween, bring on your fears, right? Call Congress, ask them to support the Big Cat Public Safety Act.
Okay. It's funny. If people are hearing they don't have to donate money, I think you're going to get even more people supporting. They're like, what? I don't have to donate money? This is great. So where can people find you, Carole? I know that you've got your Instagram, you got TikTok, you got Facebook, Twitter. Are all your handles Carole Baskin Cat on all of those platforms?
It's all Carole Baskin or Carole Baskin Cat. I didn't have social handles for myself other than Facebook before Dancing with the Stars, and they wouldn't let me use the corporate account, so I had to set up personal accounts. But I am lousy on social media. If you want to reach me, the best way to reach me is through our website at bigcatrescue.org.
That was fun.
Yeah. You know what? She's very just like chill the whole time.
Very chill.
The fact that you asked her if she killed her husband, my God, Adam.
Dude,
trying to get us.
I mean, I'm just trying to make clickbait. I'm just trying to make an Instagram post. That's all it is. I'm not. I mean, that's all I was trying to do. Let's be real. I'm just trying to make. First of all, that story went for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I was like, okay. And I was like, okay. So at the end of the day, I was like, so did you kill your husband? Just tell me that, and I'll believe it. I'm like, all right.
No, she was really nice, very sweet. You could tell that all this, you know, I would say unwanted attention has been pretty brutal on her. That's kind of what I was getting. Like she was affected through so much hate, you know, for the last year and a half or however long, whenever that show came out, that, you know, that can't be easy, because they did really paint her as the villain in that, even though Joe Exotic hired a hitman and, had all these animals in cages, she somehow became the villain.
But everyone was a villain. And then the thing is, I think everyone was guessing who was the bad person.
That's a good point. Everyone was a villain, but I think she looks at it as she was the only villain. You know what I'm saying? Because she's the one that's getting the brunt of a lot of the hatred. I mean, we saw that guy in the TikTok video who's freaking out over someone looking like Joe Exotic. And, I don't know if she gets those kind of reactions like he would if he walked down the street.
Yeah. No, from my experience from watching, I guess my takeaway from watching Tiger King, it was, the only person that was found guilty in a court of law is Joe Exotic, and he's in jail. Jeff Lowe is still sort of out, like sort of running around, kind of still getting into trouble. Carole is the one who got in Dancing with the Stars and was able to make money on it. Still, I don't know. It's weird, but I think that's what it was, more of like a mystery of who's guilty, who's not, and who's the real person at fault. And at first you thought Carole, in the beginning of Tiger King, you thought Carole was innocent, and then it made you question, was she guilty, or did she have anything to do with the murder of her husband, which she says she didn't. She talked about it for 20 minutes about how she had evidence behind it.
The funny part is she was like, what made you think? And I'm literally like, girl, I didn't pay that much attention. I just sit back and zone out and watch a show unfold in front of me. I really don't analyze shit that much.
I wasn't fingerprinting, but it was like, listen, it's a crazy story why he left and stuff. So you have to, I guess if you're really a detective, you're like, hey, she could be a reason why he left. We don't know. But what we do know is Carole was fun on the show. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe. The best thing you do to support this podcast is leave a review, 5-star only. If you do that, you say a few words, we'll actually read your stuff on air. Make sure you follow the Hollywood Raw podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We're on it all. We have a private Facebook group. Dax, tell us about this.
We do. It's called, so if you go to our Facebook group, you search Hollywood Raw, find it, and then one of the subcategories is Off the Record. So you can join the private Facebook group. We'll be jumping in there, answering questions with you guys. We'll read some of your stuff here on the air if you got questions for celebs, that kind of stuff. So join the private Facebook group Off the Record. That's for our true listeners, the people that really, really love the podcast. Those are the people that are going to be in there, and you can connect back and forth with them. So that's it. That's what we got for now. So you can follow Adam Glyn on IG, Facebook, all of that at Adam Glyn. You can find me at Dax Holt. Until next time, guys, that's it. All you cool cats and kittens out there, have a good one.
Thanks for watching the Hollywood Raw.
Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. That way we can be friends for life.